Hi guys, this is day 16 of the A2 Economics Revision Challenge, and today we're doing monetary transmission mechanism, which talks about how money supply affects the various variables in the economy. There are two kinds of monetary transmission mechanism. One is what we call a direct monetary transmission mechanism, which is looking at how the money supply directly affects AD. We say this that when there is an increase in money supply, it has a direct sort of increase in the aggregate demand of the economy, and this happens simply because when the money supply goes up in an economy, we have more money available, and this rise in liquidity or money supply in the economy result in people to end up spending more money, and that surplus basically causes the aggregate demand to go up. So we say this: when the money supply goes up, money supply becomes greater than money demand, there is excess liquidity, which causes AD of the economy to go up. So the first impact that we talk about in terms of direct monetary transmission is basically the idea that money supply, more liquidity, and therefore more liquidity causes higher aggregate demand. There's also an indirect monetary transmission mechanism where we say this: that when the money supply is going up, it affects both interest rates, and it can affect basically our exchange rate, and that causes our AD to rise. I'm going to explain this idea of how interest rate and exchange rate both change, and therefore AD goes up in the following diagram. So when money supply is, let's say, ms naught, and let's say when money supply goes up from ms naught to ms1, we can see this, that a rise in money supply causes the interest rate to fall, and this fall of interest rates results in cost of borrowing to fall, incentive to save to fall, and therefore consumption to rise and investment to rise, and that in turn makes the AD go up. So for the first thing is this, that a lower interest rate results in consumption to rise and investment to rise, and therefore AD to rise. But also we know this from our AS concept, that if the interest rates are going down, hot money flows out of the economy. Why? Because when the interest rates are low in the economy, we know this, that interest rates are low, therefore a lot of domestic investors will take their money out of the country to other places where the interest rates are high. At the same time, foreign investors will also take their money away from the country, which means hot money flows out, or short-term investment goes out of the country. That causes basically the demand for sort of pounds, if pounds is your currency, to fall, supply of pounds to rise, because remember, demand is basically foreigners are not putting their money in your country, and supply is your local domestic residents are also taking away from the country, and that causes the exchange rate to fall. This foreign exchange rate means exports become cheaper, import become expensive, and therefore X minus M goes up. So when the X minus M goes up, AD again goes up. So what our idea goes is that when you're looking at a rise in money supply, the indirect monetary transmission says is that it causes basically interest rate to fall, which causes C, I, and even X minus M to go up, and therefore AD to go up. So I wrote this here, that an increase in money supply results in interest rate to fall, which causes hot money to flow out of the country, and therefore exchange rate to depreciate. And therefore, lastly, AD rises as X minus M goes up, even C and I go up. So that's our indirect monetary transmission, where through a rise in money supply, we make the interest rate fall, which causes exchange rate to fall, and C rises, I rises, X minus M goes up, and therefore AD goes up. Now I want to use this knowledge of monetary transmission mechanism to talk about quantity theory of money, which is an idea which is also discussed in our chapter, the monetary theory. So what is quantity theory of money? According to the quantity theory of money, MV equals to PT, where M is simply the money supply, V is velocity or number of times money is changing hands, P is the price level and T is quantity. So we use this in our AS concept where we talked about how V is the velocity, number of times money is changing hands, and PT is simply price times T is simply the nominal GDP. Why? Because T is the quantity and P is the price. So P times T is simply the nominal value of our GDP. And this equation makes sense because it says this, that the amount of money that we require is basically PT. This PT is the amount of money that we require. Now, monetarists are of the view that when you look at this equation, they say this, that changes in money supply whenever M goes up or down can have significant impact on price level. And their argument simply is that if you look at equation MV equals to PT, they say this T and V are simply constant, they do not change that often. And if that is the case, whenever money supply goes up, price level goes up. So why does V and T are constant? Well, they say this, that V is simply velocity or number of time money is changing hands, and that the reason why money is changing hands is because some people have a spending pattern, and that spending pattern doesn't change over time. So for example, I every day have a particular kind of a breakfast, and I do not really change that spending pattern that often. So, and therefore, if this spending pattern isn't changing, then V is simply a constant or a variable that does not get affected because of money supply. Similarly, output T is also something which they believe is constant, because according to the monetarists, they believe that output is fixed by supply side factors like factors of production, land, labor, capital, and the price. And those factors of production are not changing as well. If those factors of production are not changing, then therefore T is also constant. So V is constant and T is constant. That simply means that whenever there is a change in money supply, you will see price level to change directly. So when M goes up, you see price level goes up. And therefore, their argument is this, that monetary inflation can occur because of money supply changes, because money supply does not change velocity or price level. This is an important result because till the 1970s, monetary inflation was not recognized until Milton Friedman came up with the idea, and this is where the whole monetary school of thought came about. Now, Keynesians have a counter argument to that. Keynesians simply argue this, that the change in money supply can affect any or all of the three variables. In other words, they say that if M goes up, there could be a possibility for V, T, and P all to change. There is no definite sort of reason why only P will change. And they say, for example, velocity of circulation that we talk about, the spending pattern, it's not stable, it's not going to be unchanging, and it can change due to many factors. For example, if there's a use of credit cards, then suddenly people might have more money available to spend, and therefore spending pattern may change. Also, they say this, that the argument that T is constant doesn't make sense, and they come up with this kind of a diagram for velocity for GDP. They say that what if LRA is like this? If LRAS is like this, and let's say we do increase money supply, and let's say AD does go up. When AD does go up in this diagram, you can see this, that the price level is not changing. Why? Because we are not at full employment. So the fact that Keynesians argue is that LRAS is not necessarily inelastic. It can be elastic. They argue that there could be, for example, unemployment even in the long run, and this unemployment even in the long run can result in basically us to have a possibility that when your money supply go up, price level may not go up. So price level may not go up.